Are you wondering how to hire a real estate agent to help you with your home search? Well, we're going to cover the details of that process in this video, so stay tuned. Hi, I'm Theresa Wellman with HomeownerExperience.com, your local San Jose, California realtor. And today I'm bringing to you a video of a second in the series of several of how to buy a home and the steps in the process. So today we're covering step number 1, which is how to hire a real estate agent. If you didn't watch step 0, which is the research process so that you can focus your search, please do watch that video first. But today, like I said, we're going to dive into how to hire a real estate agent. So I'm going to pop over to my computer and let you walk through this process with me. So the first thing that you probably want to do is ask around for people in your office. Maybe you've gone to YouTube and you've been watching videos and you found an agent that is informing you about the area. Maybe you know of people in your office or your friends and family that have recently bought or sold a home that have a referral of a local real estate agent. But remember, in part 0, we talked about how important it is to have an agent who is really focused on the neighborhoods that you think you want to buy. San Jose is such a really big city that we want to make sure that you're focusing in the right area of San Jose with the right agent who covers that area. So if you don't have 2 or 3 people based off of those first couple recommendations by, finding them online or a referral, then what I want you to do is to go to google.com. And then you're going to type in an area that you think you're focusing on based on step 0. So let's say Blossom Valley Real Estate Agent. And you're going to pick up what comes up there and see maybe who else you might be able to talk to. Okay, so here are some referrals. Here's a map, here's different places. And if you scroll down, there's here's Yelp, you could look there maybe, Zillow, Coldwell Banker, Blossom Valley Real Estate Homes. There's a lot of different websites here, but you're looking for individual agents, not necessarily companies. So here, my number information comes up. There's a couple other, this Blossom Valley Realtor you could check out. So what I want you to do is really make a list of maybe 5 agents at this point so that you can do some research on those people to whittle it down to 2 or 3 that you want to actually interview. So I recommend at this point that you make some sort of a list or spreadsheet with the names of different agents and some basic criteria. So I have a list of 12 questions that I would recommend you ask each agent, and maybe some of that stuff you can do ahead of time by researching online to help you figure out the 2 or 3 people you want to talk to and interview in person. So in order to get those questions, I'm going to cover them here, but I also have the home buyer guide that you can download, and all of those questions are typed up in there, as well as additional information about the home loan process and the steps through getting yourself ready to buy a house. So you might want to download that guide and then have that information available. So the first question I recommend you ask is, what do you do different than other agents in the area? So you can maybe find a little bit about this by going to their website. So for example, if we go to my website and you take a look, and maybe you found me on YouTube, so you know that I do a lot of video. You're also going to find a lot of video on my website that can walk you through different things. But one other thing that I really do is go into detail of market stats. So if you like to understand the market, what direction it's going, and really make decisions based off of real market data, well, that is definitely something I do differently than a lot of other real estate agents. So I have these custom charts that I create every month, and you'll find I do a video market update every month as well that you can watch and stay in tune with the market updates. So the second question I would ask is, how many homes have you closed or sold in the past year, and what % of those were buyer sales? Well, there's a couple different ways you can look that information up ahead of time as well. You might want to ask them or just do that research. So what I recommend, actually, if you're on my website and you go to the homepage, there is a link to the Santa Clara County MLS where you can search agents right from there. So it's this MLS button here on the screen. And this takes you actually directly to my page. But if you go up to find an agent, you can type in any agent name that you found and do a little research on them. So it'll tell you how many current listings they have, how many recent transactions they have, so that you get a good idea of how much business they've done. I think also if you go to these recent transactions, I guess this doesn't tell you if I represented buyer or seller. I think if you go to Zillow, you can get that information. So there's different ways to research who has done what business and how active they are in the market. The third question is, what neighborhoods are you most comfortable selling in? So there's a lot of great ways, again, to figure that out. And I think if you go to Realtor.com, let's do that. It's going to give you a nice view of a map of what agents have done and where their business is. So here you see all the listings, but you don't see the actual map of those items. So it's going to be important to find a map so you get a visual representation. So if you type find realtors, search for a real estate agent, and then find realtors. If you type in Theresa Wellman and San Jose, California, not Illinois, San Jose, California. I didn't even know there was a San Jose, Illinois. Did you? Anyway, here you get a slightly different number. It says that I've sold 31. This is probably the last couple years worth of information, but I do believe this is going to give you a map here somewhere so that you can get a visual representation of where those deals are. Yes, here we go. Here's a map. So you can do this research ahead of time to figure out what kind of production the agent is doing and what areas they cover. So here's a visual representation of that. And then you can decide, is that a match for where you're looking to buy? Is there a good concentration in the areas that you're interested in that you determine based off of step 0? Okay, so that's another way to research that. Question number 4 is, how long have you been in the business? Again, these sites are going to tell you that. It says 16 years experience here. I think anywhere on Realtor.com or the MLS, you probably can find that information. You can also go to the California DRE website and look up their license and figure that out. So the next question you're definitely going to have to ask in person in an interview is, do you have a personal assistant or other support staff working for you? And what steps and people can I expect to work with when we're working together? So that is definitely an important question, because you want to make sure it's a process that you're comfortable with and one that you understand. For example, I have a personal assistant who does a lot of back-end stuff. You would only interact with her during disclosures or minor items, maybe with an inspector where I have a conflict in my schedule. 95% of the time, you're going to be interacting directly with me, but every agent runs their business different. So be sure to ask that and make sure you're comfortable with whatever their process is. Step number 6 is, what will you do to keep me informed? So you're going to want to talk to the agent about kind of the day-to-day process of buying a home and what it would look like. For example, are they going to email you listings? Are they going to preview those listings for you? How are they going to keep you up to date? One of the things that I do differently is I will do a lot of video tours for my client so that they get a preview of the homes in detail with things that they're looking for without actually having to go visit all the homes. That saves you time during the week or over the weekend so that you really only see the properties that are a really strong match for you. So understand what the agent is going to do and how they're going to keep you informed with the home search. Question number 7, can you provide me with further resources and referrals to contractors or inspectors? So get an understanding of how many different people the agent has on their team. Do they have recommended foundation inspector, termite, property inspectors? Do they have contractors they recommend or handymen they recommend, roofers, any of those things that maybe you're going to run into that maybe you're not comfortable with, especially if you're a first-time home buyer? Those are important to understand. Question number 8 is, can you give me some references from other clients you've worked with? So this is a really great place. You can also do some research and find out their reviews. So if you go back to, if you go to my website, you'll see that I have reviews listed here at the bottom. They're all Google reviews. If you go to google.com, like where we were before, you will see that there are plenty of reviews there. You can search the agent's name, just Google the agent's name and find some of their actual reviews so that you can get a feel for what their clients are saying. Okay, so that is definitely important. You want to find a person that resonates with you or has a service that you're looking for. Question number 9 is, what is the best way to get in touch with you? And do you have set working hours? And because you should know exactly how to get a hold of your agent and what process they use so that you guys can work as an effective team. Question 10 is, what does a typical home tour look like for you? So you can definitely have them walk through that. You know, if you're looking through a house by yourself, it's one way. If you're with your agent, it could be a totally different way. And, during COVID-19, it's actually even a different process. So understanding what that's going to look like and how it works is going to be really important to home buying. And there you might find some differences between the agents, and you might like the way one agent works versus another. You want to find a really good match here because you could potentially be working with this agent for a few months during this home process. Number 11 is, what accolades have you received in the past couple years? You want to make sure your agent is professional, is exceeding or doing well in their business, and is treating it like a business so that you're going to get professional service. That's why you asked that question. And question number 12 is, are you a fiduciary, or how will you represent my best interest? So that's a great question just to ask to see how that client makes sure that they are truly representing you. And maybe a question that's not on there that you can ask during the interview, or you can ask after you've made your decision, is, what are the next steps? How do we get started? What do we do? How do you work moving forward, right? Those are all really important questions. And so those are things that I would definitely cover in my buyer consultation appointment. But once you've done some of that initial research, you're going to set up those interviews with the client and the agent. And you're going to definitely want to start that interview process, if you will, with the agent right away in that phone call or initial communication. How quickly do they get back to you? How professional are they? Do they have a system and process that they work through to guide you all the way through? Those are all really important things. So setting up that appointment is valuable, and then how do they handle that is valuable. And then, of course, at the appointment, how does it go? What does your gut tell you? Do you like their personality? Do you like their process? Based off of that, if you interview 2 to 3 people live, hopefully you'll find a really good match that's going to work for you, and you'll be able to move forward and hire your agent. And if you did not cover next steps in your interview, definitely contact that agent and say, how do we get started? How do we work together? That would cover hiring an agent. I hope that answered all your questions. Definitely check out the next video, which is going to be talking about loan process and pre-approval steps. And I think that's an important step for you to cover, of course, and understand what the process might be, but your agent will guide you through that as well. Comment below if you have any more questions that I did not cover. Thank you.